Hello, everyone. It is another episode of Masks Off. I'm Tia,
And I'm Kim.
and today we are going to be talking about some validation. We'll dive into it a little more after I read the quote. So, this is from Trish MacGregor. Don't seek approval. This may be the toughest suggestion for you to follow and the most important. Whether you're a teenager seeking approval from your peers, a middle aged parent seeking the approval of your kids, or a man or woman seeking the approval of a partner, it all amounts to the same thing. You're giving your personal power away every time you seek validation from someone else for who you are. I love that quote.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love it.
It so speaks to me. Like
You've got some stuff going on.
I do. Yeah. I'll just start with high school. Let's go all the way back to, even before high school. I think I shared before in one of the earlier episodes way back in the beginning that when I was 10 years old, so that would be fifth grade, my teacher had my mom, like it was the parent teacher conference.
Right.
And the teacher just told my mom, like, Kim is not working to her potential. She's capable of so much more. And there was just this, you know how I think it's Oprah or somebody always talks about defining moments. That was a defining moment for me because I took that to heart. And from that moment on throughout fifth grade forward, I started to achieve. I'm like, okay, so let me see. So I started, I guess, working harder, pushing myself harder, started to, I can feel it in my body right now. The feeling that when I started to get back some of those test papers or grades, and they were good grades, and feeling really good, and having the teacher say, oh, great job, look at this, you got an A or you got 100 or whatever. And so that continued from fifth grade all the way on, and just feeling that validation of every time I got a test paper back, every time I got a grade that was a good grade, and my report cards getting straight A's, I felt validated. I felt like I was worthy and worthwhile. Before that, when I was just being a kid and being a quote average student, I didn't feel seen. It comes down to being seen versus unseen. And before that, because I was quiet, I was compliant. I was always one to sit back, watch, and observe everyone. I didn't want attention on myself. So I was invisible, not seen. But then as soon as I started getting the good grades, now I'm being seen.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Couple questions. Okay,
Yep.
Where did you feel it? You just said this took me back. I noticed.
Yeah, the good feeling.
Where are you feeling
all
it?
in my solar plexus, which is the stomach area, just above, and the solar plexus.
Okay, and then when you said you were feeling seen when you were doing, but when you were being versus a kid.
Yeah.
Can you think back to that? Do you notice a difference when you were just being you more so?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you still had some shells and masks and stuff at that age.
Right.
But being more you versus performing, did you feel more pressure? Do you understand what I'm asking? Like, do you notice a difference between when you were just doing you versus you were in performance mode, conforming
When
mode?
I was just being me, and I was like in the moment, and I was connected to the moment, to nature, and feeling my fullest potential. Yes, I can feel, and I felt so alive. Like there was such an aliveness. Like I can remember swimming in the lake and just, feeling every stroke, feeling the water, or remember being in the ocean when I was young and playing and just riding the waves and just feeling the water, like just so in the moment, so alive. The spark, is just like, whew. That is a different felt sense versus the validation for grades, because one, I'm waiting. It's like my hands are out like a beggar, like, tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm okay. And just always searching. There's a longing and an emptiness of waiting for the other on the outside to give me that sense of worth. It's an emptiness. And when the validation came, it was very temporary and fleeting because it was never enough. Okay, got 100 on that test.
Now you got to do it again.
Now you got to do it again. Oh, got an A on this, got straight A's. Like, oh, okay, now what's next? Graduated top of my class in high school. Okay, what's next? Did, even in sports, okay, was the captain of the softball team. What's next?
Right.
It's never ending. When
future-based.
It's future-based. It's contingent upon an external factor.
Right.
And I never, other than when I just was, right? When I was just being, I guess I did know how to validate from within, because nature told me, the moment told me, my true inner self told me I was okay just as is.
In that present moment.
In that moment, being in the moment. It wasn't until a teacher said to my mom, she's not okay. It's not okay the way she is. Or
she needs to be better.
She needs to be better. If I wasn't seen within my family, and that was another trigger point, I didn't feel seen in my family of origin until I started bringing home the good grades.
Right.
Now it was an opportunity for all of them, or, I include my aunt who's passed away in that as well, because she would give me money for every A I got. I can't remember what it was. It was $5 an A or $2 an A or something. So she was very proud or whatever. She was validating that as well. But it gave them a sense too, because I was oldest child. So I was the shining star or whatever they call it, of the family. I had that role. We all have roles in our family systems, which is, so interesting to me to study and learn about all the roles that we play in our family of origin, and continue to carry on in adulthood until we change those roles. So.
Right. So it was not just the external validation from teacher, from family. It was the external validation from culture, that good grades make you a better person. So you were striving for this external thing that you knew would get you accolades and feel seen and heard for your performance versus 100%. For who you are.
100%
within.
Yep.
So did it take away from your love of learning because you were so focused on
Oh,
the
absolutely. Because what I did was I just studied for the test to get the grade. And as soon as the test was over, I didn't retain the information. And I rarely enjoyed, the only thing I would say, probably from 10th grade on and through college, I really enjoyed the process of writing papers, which is probably why I went on to teach English. And I really enjoyed teaching my students how to write a research paper. Like, I really loved the process. And I'm really grateful to my 10th grade English teacher, because she's the one who taught us how to write a research paper, and she was really good at teaching it. So I remember really liking that, but everything else was all for the grade, did not learn for the sake of learning.
So with that 10th grade English teacher, she was focused more, at least this is what I'm hearing, she was focused more on the process than the outcome.
Yes.
The outcome totally focused on it, but it was the process of how to write a paper, how to do the research, how to bring it together, how to create this 100%. Paper versus get it done.
Exactly. And talking about creating, and going back to when I was just being, like, remembering when I was a child and creating a fort. I mean, I used to make the most elaborate forts in my house. I absolutely love my mother and so grateful for my mom and dad that they did not care about making a mess, because I literally would rearrange the whole house. And we lived in a 2-family like flat. So it was just a flat. And really the living space wasn't that big. So when I was making a fort in the middle of like it took over everybody's space.
I love it.
But I would use every piece of furniture, like all these sheets and blank, and I was creating and enjoying that and just being in the moment of creating a fort.
And you were not looking for external validation for that.
No external validation at all. And I was the same age then as I was when the teacher wanted me to be a better student. I can remember.
So did you drop your fort building after that?
So that was 5th grade.
Just curious.
It did not last that much longer. Maybe into 6th grade, possibly. But then after 6th grade, I cannot really say I did much fort building after that.
And
so
that
would have been 12.
Pre-teenish. So
Pre-teen,
that makes,
yeah.
Then it's the fitting in with peers, and that's not.
Right. Yeah. And then that took over as well, is then the fitting in. And I think when you're a teenager seeking approval from your peers, so, and then that happened, you know, and then it was, so all right, I'll be vulnerable. Then there's that juxtapose here of, okay, so yes, I am fitting in, or I am getting the external validation from the good grades.
Right.
But now I also, because we're wired for connection and to be in a tribe or to be in a herd, I was trying to find my herd. And as most teenagers, not all, will start to participate in high risk behavior or just will because they're trying to fit in and not belong. Really what I wanted was belonging, but I didn't know that then. So I would fit in. And then now I'm on the one hand, I'm doing all of these praiseworthy, perfect things. And then on the other hand, I'm in all these high risk behaviors. So it was what was it called? What is it? House angels. How's that saying go? Maybe it's street devil, house angel, whatever. But you know what I mean? It's got the devil and the angel on each side. And I was participating in all of these high risk behaviors, which
to get their approval and then the family approval from the grades.
So from the time, exactly. So you can see how much this is amazing that we're having this episode, because I think that it's so important, right? It's so important if you're a parent and you are raising kids, and especially if they're really young, you have lots of opportunity to steer them a different way. And that's what you do a lot of. Well, it's also helping the parent understand too. The parent first has to stop seeking approval.
Right.
But you can teach your children and give them a different direction so that they're not in this never ending, just, seeking and never being filled, because you have to fill from within.
Right.
It's that saying, it's an inside job.
Right. And we start that conditioning so young.
So young.
It starts with little tiny kids, they get all, oh, look at how cute your outfit is. You look so cute. You look, whatever. It's that external validation. So can we shift gears a little to the present?
Yes.
Okay. So how is this old pattern, which many of us have, because that's how cultural schooling, all of that conditioning has been put on us. So how is it showing up today for you? Because that's what started this whole conversation before we hit record. So I think you've created the foundation of that belief system.
Yep.
And now it's showing up in sneaky ways today.
It is. And the way that it shows up for me today is that it's more of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is more perfectionistic. So again, I'm seeing that perfection mask coming up, and it's the perfectionism is, although I've healed many, many layers of it, it's insidious. It can keep popping up and it can keep showing up in the sneakiest of ways.
Right.
So I started to share with you before we hit record that I was feeling a little bit frustrated with how My sessions are going with my clients in the sense that I don't, or even people that I've worked with, like say 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I'm not always hearing and getting the feedback of how it's going because I've done their sessions and, and of course I can reach out and just say, hey, how's it going or whatever. And sometimes I do. And sometimes I hear, sometimes not. But because I'm not getting the constant validation that they are in a good place or getting the results that they wanted,
right.
I'm putting the spotlight back on me. And now the gremlins of the doubt gremlins are going, well, maybe you didn't do a good job, or maybe this, or maybe that, maybe this isn't for you. And like, if I'm honest with myself, I know that I showed up every single time for every client, giving them 100% of my best effort, 110%. I was completely present for them. I prepared for them. I was prepared. I was present. And maybe I can find another P, but I know I gave it my best, right? I gave it my best.
Right.
And when you're a perfectionist and you struggle with the perfectionist mask, your best isn't good enough.
And perfection is what, right. And you add on the layer of needing that external validation when the gremlins come back.
Exactly.
Because you weren't having the gremlins right after the sessions.
I was not. No, it's just because like this time has lapsed and I'm wondering, well, how are they doing or how's it going? I really don't have any real indications, maybe one or two, but any real indications that they're not doing well or it didn't go well or that they're even upset with me. That's the other piece with the seeking approval, is that I don't want people to be upset with me. So it's like, oh, okay, well, what if this client's upset?
There's some more P's. People pleaser.
Pleaser, exactly. There's a lot of 2 P's. So yeah, it's just really interesting and crazy. So I've been noticing, and here's then the MO, right? So the MO is, well, I think I'll just quit, or I don't know if it's worth it. I start to look for all the reasons to run,
right?
Rather than, digging in and reminding myself that this is a process. Right? It is a process. And when you are in business or anything you're trying to do, it could even be being a better parent, or it's about growth. It's about effort and giving your best and knowing your best is good enough and just maintaining, just weathering the storm, right? Just weathering the storm.
Yeah. And it can, you said, work, it can show up in, when you're exercising, we hit that plateau.
Oh, that's a good example.
Right. Yeah. So thinking of something we're looking at that external, like I should be able to, I'm not a runner, but run faster. I should be able to lift more weights, and you hit that plateau. So you can, it's not working, give up or push through. So you always have that choice. And I was looking at the quote while you're talking that last bit. And so you're giving your personal power away every time you seek validation from someone else for who you are. So is your resistance, your old pattern, like, oh, I'm just going to give up, or I'm going to focus on something else now, or whatever it is, you're giving away your personal power because you're not getting that external validation that raised you, because it did raise you, right? Yep. So how can you restore your inner drive, your inner personal power, knowing, we talked about valleys, knowing you're in this valley.
Yep.
And you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other and trust that not everyone's going to give you validation because you don't know their story.
Right.
Right. They could be overwhelmed with something else, or things are going great. And usually people reach out, right, to complain. When things are going great, that's what, customer service, they hear that all the time. We only hear about complaints, so they, in their mind, may be like, oh, this has been amazing, and not even thinking to reach out to you because things are great.
So I'm projecting. There's another, doing a lot of projecting. Another P, that things aren't going well. But to answer your question in terms of like, well, what can I do? What is the antidote? And just, there's a few things. One, just being vulnerable enough to talk about it and share it. Because Brene Brown says all the time, when you leave shame in a petri dish, it grows.
Right.
You have to be able to shine the light on it by talking about it and acknowledging it and being aware is the first step. So I'm aware that this is going on inside me. I'm acknowledging it and I'm bringing it up to the surface. And I've already started, just because I've been doing this process long enough now that I can get back to center much more quickly than I could have in the past. In the past, I probably could have spiraled with this for a very long time. And I probably would have quit and said, you know what, I'm done. I'm done doing this. I'm not doing hypnosis anymore. Too hard. It's too hard. Too hard is another one. It's too hard. I'm going to quit.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. I don't need to do this. But I'm already hearing my inner dialogue is already changing.
Right.
Sense that, and here is the inner validation and why it is such an inside job versus looking outward for the validation. What I said a few minutes ago, I know there's a knowing. I know I am showing up for each and every client, giving 110%. I do prepare. I probably over prepare. I spend so many hours preparing for each and every session.
Perfectionist preparing.
Perfectionist preparing. Yes. I really do. And then I show up. I am centered. I'm present. I am compassionate. I hold a safe space.
Totally.
People have told me, I feel like I can trust you. I feel like I can tell you anything because I am non-judgmental. I am safe and I am compassionate and I am caring. So my presence alone, along with just providing them the technique, is the best that I can do. I can't control what they do. 100%. I can't control. And that's the part where I'm getting hung up, is thinking that I can control what they do too, or that I can control the outcome. I don't have control over those things. So the serenity prayer is, God, give me the courage to change the things I can. I just said it wrong. Serenity, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things, to accept what I cannot control or change. I cannot change another person, place, or thing. 100%. I can only control me and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's all I can do.
Right. Right. And so not giving away your power by remembering you can only control you.
Yes.
And your beliefs, and you know with 100% certainty how you're showing up. And that's all you can do. And when you were talking, this reminds me, I'm just going to pivot a little. Of our True North class, which is starting soon. So so we use analogies in our classes for those of you who have taken some. And so in True North, we talk about a lot of things. You come away with so many tools and stuff, but towards the end of the class, we won't get in too deep into it, but this is your boulder right now.
Yes, it is.
This is your boulder in your path. So your boulder is, say it,
is seeking approval,
looking to the external,
looking to the external.
And so
it's the conformist mask. I'm trying to conform.
So your boulder's in your path right now.
Yeah,
and your old MO would be to just see that boulder in your path and go the other way, or sit down and just lay down and give up. I can't move this boulder.
Can't do it.
But now with the tools that we share in this class, so we talk about it too, is how this isn't you move a boulder and you're done.
Right.
You don't toss this boulder aside, which is the next class, talking more about the boulders. We're identifying these boulders in this class because you can't get rid of them. They're part of who we are because of everything you shared at the beginning in this podcast about how the grades came and that external validation. So that boulder is part of your path. It's just, can you roll it to the side? Can you walk around it? So it's not preventing your forward trajectory.
Yes.
To get out of the valley that you're in right now. Because I already see you getting out of it. You're already like totally different than you were when we first started
Yeah, I
talking.
totally feel the shift already. And
So cool.
I feel it. So you're right. It's like I either push the boulder to the side and I keep going forward, or I can climb over the boulder, you know, walk around. There's a lot of things that I can do. And I'm doing all of that by going inward, and I'm validating myself from within, and I'm reminding myself.
And there's no shame in doing what you've also done with this too, is you just sat with your boulder for a while. You rested.
Yes.
You sat beside your boulder, and you're looking at it, you're honoring it, you're recognizing, I see how you have come to be, how you're on my path.
Yes.
And befriended your boulder.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes, I know.
It's really amazing how in real time you are just demonstrating.
I know.
Crap gets in our way.
It does.
We throw our power away. We do all of this, but it comes back to you doing that internal deconstruction work and remembering you are enough.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did bring up the point about the mountain and the boulder and everything, because life is not a straight up climb up the mountain. And as you know, people will see who do take all of our mountain courses, we use the analogies that we're going to show there are valleys, there are peaks, there's, you know, cliffs going off the abyss. There's all kinds of people are like, what the heck are they talking about? But it's just all a metaphor for life. And life is not like a straight climb up
and it's
to the
not
top.
one mountain.
And it's not one mountain, and it's many. There's higher mountains, littler mountains. And it's not about getting to the top. It's not about the destination. It's about the climb.
It's the process of writing your research paper.
Yes, exactly. It's the process. Yeah.
Right. It's not the end result.
Yeah. So just quick side note, I know we're, you know, processing this while we're recording, but when does this episode come out, and is it before True North starts, so that people aren't confused?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
This comes out before True North?
Right before. Yeah. Right before, or if not, it literally is right when it started. So we are starting it in February for those of you listening.
So people then listening to this episode, if they are interested in all that we're saying, would hear this before we start and would have an opportunity to sign up, correct?
Yes. And you can always pop in, you know, if you listen to this a little later, because not everyone listens to them right when they come out, it is available, you know, whether you pop in and we're halfway through the live course, or if, you know, you can access it at any time. It's not a one and done.
We're just beginning February 1st live, where you and I will be going through the 4-week course live with the participants, but it can always be purchased and done at a self-guided pace.
Exactly. Of which we're still available. We'll
always be available in the Masks Off Facebook community as well, and on Teachable. So there's always that as well, to hop into the Facebook community.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's in the show notes as well, how to access that.
Right.
So everything is in the show notes. Okay. Yeah. So that is the process.
It is. And it's amazing to show how, you know, when you first started all of this work, when I first started all of this work, it took a long time to do what you just did in this episode.
Oh, you mean to deconstruct and go through the deconstruction? I know. That's why I was saying normally I probably would have either maybe given up, or I would be in this like downward spiral place for weeks. And because I would be having that energy, I just I wouldn't feel motivated. I would lose my motivation to keep plugging away at it. But now that I'm able to see it for what it is, and I'm able to go in and I can shift and deconstruct it, I'm like, okay, this has nothing to do with the hypnosis or the process. It has to do with me.
Right.
And how I'm feeling at the moment, because I'm not getting the external validation. And it's not it doesn't matter whether it was the type of work or not, but you know, it should never be about what's on the outside. It's about how I show up and how I feel about it. Right. And I love doing it. I love helping people.
And you do it very well.
Thank you. So, I mean, I just
little external validation.
I know. That's funny. Yes, I know.
And so, and then I think just piggybacking on what you said, it's also important to remember that if you get stuck in that spiral, that's okay too. It's not, deconstruction doesn't always happen quickly, no matter how long you've been doing this. And it is part of the process. So if you get stuck in that spiral, no, that's okay too. But we want to encourage you to, start to crawl out of that spiral, because there is a light out there, and, we're here to help you.
Exactly. And I don't, pretend to think that I won't be in this spot again, because I probably will, when you, especially for anyone that is probably self-employed, it's easy to, or rather it's hard, because if you're your own boss and you don't have coworkers, or, in some jobs where you might be in sales, like, again, that's all external validation though, hitting those numbers, those are all external. And think about that. When you're not hitting those numbers or those goals, you can end up feeling like
not
worthy if you haven't had the opportunity to do what we're doing and learn about how to deconstruct. If that's all you know, and that's all I did know for the longest time, it's very easy to really feel unworthy.
Yep. And be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah, I'm really glad we had this episode, because I'm hoping it just sheds some light for some other people as well. It's certainly shed light for me. Did anything come up for you when we were talking about, I know you said you've had the perfectionist mask as well.
Yeah. So it's part of, I have had lots of those moments that you were describing with my work. And now that, I've been doing this, I'm on my 5th year, so it still shows up. It's just not as frequent, because I have worked through so much of that. But boy, I'm very good at hitting that wall and being like, for me, I don't necessarily give up in the same way. It's more, I find other things to do instead. So I do the avoidance, like, I'm going to be so busy doing this other stuff, I don't want to deal with what's right in front of me. So my boulder shows up and I just dance around the boulder instead of actually going within the boulder. So that was my MO, and I still do that. It's just not as often. So it's interesting how, I've been there for sure. And it can show up from time to time, by all means. But I think I'm gentler with myself when it shows up. Oftentimes when it shows up more in the present moment, within the last year, I am okay with honoring, like, okay, maybe you just need a break. You're out of balance, because I know it's showing up because I am not honoring something within me.
Yep.
And so I go within and I'm like, what voice, how do I need to be more authentic? What is showing up? Why am I hiding? Why am I avoiding?
That's a really good point that you bring up, because I think that for myself too, I can say I do that as well. And I'm going to guess a majority of people will be really hard on themselves, push themselves, the negative, critical inner dialogue, the shame, rather than go to self-compassion and be gentle. How many of us, when we're struggling, innately go to, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
Give yourself some breathing room.
It's not easy.
We do the opposite. We push even harder. Like, what the F is wrong with you? You're such a this, you're such a that. Like,
how could you be so stupid?
How could you do this? Like, come on, you're such a lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's all that critical.
And it doesn't help.
Inner dialogue. It doesn't. We think that it does. We think that by pushing is motivating us to be more determined, but it's not. Maybe in the outcome, it might look like it's working, because you might be driven and you might reach those outward goals, but ask yourself, how happy are you on the inside? How do you feel on the inside?
Versus, okay, I know this is hard. I know you're having a hard time. Just do one little thing. Just do one little thing. One little thing. One little thing. And you get through it. And the other piece is, this is not alone. This is not a solo thing. Always.
No.
I mean, when we say you're going inside and you're doing all of this, that's internal and that's alone work, solo work. But if you don't share it with someone else, you don't shine the light on that petri dish like you were talking about, it's easier to stay stuck in that spiral versus I'm going to bear witness to your struggle, and I'm going to, until you can give self-compassion for yourself, allow someone else to give it to you. And that's different than external validation.
Right. That's someone who is just walking alongside you.
Mm-hmm. Holding that space.
Holding the space.
Right. Which is what we talk about in the lantern in aligning with truth.
Yep. I was going to say the lantern, and I was thinking the other is just tethering, yourself, giving a hand to someone who is falling off the edge of the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
You're not carrying them. You're not pushing them. You're not, they're not on your back. You're just holding a hand or sitting alongside them.
The work. Yeah. You're not doing their work that they need to do themselves.
Whew. Wow. Yeah. This was really, really good. This was so good. I'm so glad we did this episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope that everyone had a great holiday if you celebrated. I know we're a few weeks past, and a great 2021.
Here we go.
Wishing you new 2021.
Right. So have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day, everybody.
Bye.